So I just wanted to reflect on, in my experience there from the mid-'80s to now the mid-2010s, how things have changed. I won't spend too much time on it, and I think the profile of mental health and the acceptance of mental health issues has really changed, and that would be the last point there on the right. We've had a lot of prominent campaigns. We've had the focus on community-based care is there, but it continues to be inadequately resourced. That's something that I struggle with on a day-to-day basis at my work. Previously, institutional care was more of the norm. Now it's there, but barely there for the people who need it. And we have a patients' rights movement that's really come into a full-fledged. We have a lot more consumer involvement in providing input to services. We've done this all in the context of an information technology revolution. We have all sorts of new problems, new approaches, new ways of looking at the world and experiencing it that impact life, including mental health. And a couple of other things. So there's more autonomy, there's more empowerment for clients, and the burden of care for families is still there. It's still there because it's more community care. It's less institutional care. Sorry, I didn't introduce this guy. That's so the little claymation figure is I've referred to in working on this project as Himansu. So he's basically my avatar as I'm sort of kind of guiding you through my journey. And here he is next to. So earlier on, that was a picture of me as a young boy in India. So we have a lot more diversity in terms of programming available to clients. We have a lot more specific programming. But the cons are, it's still a fractured system, and the safety net has huge gaps. There's a lot more risk for homelessness, substance abuse, criminalization, and there's lack of adequate housing support, and there's no safety net in the capacity for inpatient treatment. So we have all these services, and it's growing to be a complex system, and now we've started talking about new needs for system navigators and coordinated access, things like that. And that's where the picture of the mama duck guiding the baby ducks, there's more of a role for the complexity of system and guidance for providing people like a way through it. So, and getting more narrow now, in terms of the role of the social worker in mental health, these are broad generalities, and I think I don't think it was that bad in the 80s. It wasn't the bad old 80s or anything like that, but the focus was a lot more narrow and constrained, at least in mental health care institutions. It was much more of a clinical model. And then now there's a lot more approaches, a lot more involvement of alternative views on mental health having an impact on how we as social workers work and how we as social workers operate in those systems, and what our agendas are in those systems. I think those are really important. So the multiple models, the structural model, anti-oppressive, critical, and the focus for me is really about the values that we bring to our work and to the environment we work in, the relationships we build, our focus on context and our attention to power in those situations, and our self-awareness about how we are engaging with that. So this is a brief slide about my evolving framework of practice. And theoretically, back in the day in school, initially, sort of the biggest thing was the biopsychosocial approach, but now it's shifted. And it's the recovery model is much more legitimated in mental health service environments, and it's there. It's institutions are saying this is how we want to approach care. The one question that comes back, like for me, is that the recovery model came up in a time when there was institutional care. But for me, the big challenges are a focus on the population and the shifting of the cohorts that I serve, increasing diversity. Also, with a more fractured system, or lack of a system, increasing endemic marginality. People are generationally hard done by, and they're up against the wall. Also, I've started incorporating a lot of other postmodernist approaches, including narrative therapy, solution-focused therapy, into my practice. So that's different. The one caveat is that working in a hospital-oriented, you have to remain, as a practitioner, you have to remain conversant in the medically dominated approaches. Again, to me, it's about, I broke it down into direct practice, self-practice, and system practice. It's about learning the system, building the relationships, and recruiting allies and support and working.